Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from our sponsor. The Daily Compliance News for April 28, 2022, the Elon struck down edition. And we begin with that story as the U.S. Federal District Judge slams Elon Musk for trying to overturn or get out of his agreed order with the SEC around his infamous 420 funding secured tweet. A federal judge in New York denied the request by Musk to end the agreement, which requires him to run a social media post by a company lawyer if the statements contain material information. The judge said that none of the arguments brought forward by the court, but rather by Musk's counsel, held water, and the assertion that he agreed to the SEC conditions because the financial burden was wholly unpersuasive. What this will do to Musk's attempt to purchase Twitter is an open question, but the judge really slammed him on the order. Next up, the conflict of interest bill for financial disclosures of judges has passed both houses of Congress and now goes to President Biden for signature. The bill would make it easier for the public to see if a member of the federal judiciary has a financial conflict of interest warranting recusal from a case. And given what judges have done around this issue, it's long overdue. It's the Courthouse Ethics and Transparency Act, or CETA. Next up, former Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielson has joined a Web3 compliance platform as an advisor. In the most interesting development, she joined Astra Protocol as strategic advisor, the second hire this month of a former Trump administration official by the decentralized compliance provider. So you've got some pretty high-profile folks in there. They also hired Mick Mulvaney. No word on whether they'll try to bring some of Trump's more nefarious policies into this, but it's certainly interesting that they would bring these people in. And finally, Archegos raises its head again as founder Bill Wang and the CFO were charged with securities fraud. For those who don't remember, this was the company who got into significant hot water as it collapsed in March 2021, leaving banks with more than $10 billion in losses and sparking concerns for more regulatory oversight. More than $100 billion in stock market value vanished in a mere matter of days. The charges were brought in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York and described the scheme as historic in scope, alleging the defendants lied to banks to obtain billions of dollars in loans. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.